Welcome to the Get Emergent podcast, where we discuss leadership, team, and organizational topics and best practices. We like to provide ideas, concepts, and pragmatic experiments to help you develop your potential in your work and your leadership. I'm Bill Berthel.
And I'm Ralph Simone.
Ralph, this is a topic I know we're both passionate about. It's leaders never stop learning.
I hope not, or else you're done, right?
Yeah.
I mean, with the pace and the complexity of change and the interdependence, as we've talked about in other podcasts, if you're going to stay at least current, forget about ahead, you need to be a lifelong learner.
Yeah, and the rate of learning opportunity keeps increasing exponentially, right? The increase to human knowledge, the exponential growth that occurs there. We're either learning and growing or we're dying.
Absolutely.
We're either going to get left behind. This isn't about fear. This is about knowing that we want to keep learning and growing. But the connection to humility, if we think we need not learn, if we think we know enough, we're already halfway in the grave.
I think so. And, it reminds me, I had actually a friend of mine that used to work with us years ago, very smart guy, very talented.
Sure.
Well-educated. He had advanced degrees, and, we wanted him to continue his learning journey by getting a coaching certification. And he said, no, I know everything I need to. And, I think in any business, that statement is the kiss of death, because there are so many things that we just do not know. And the body of knowledge is changing so fast. What's the curve? Fast. There's that curve in, I think it's IT. It's named after a guy.
Oh, right.
The
name's, yep, I know what you mean.
But things are changing at such a rapid pace. And I mean, we're looking at the vehicles we're currently driving right now. It's almost like an episode out of the Jetsons, right? And that's only going to change faster and faster. And to me, how exciting to be a person, a leader who never stops learning. I mean, how exciting. There's always something new to learn, a different way to do it, a new technology to embrace. To me, that's kind of fun.
So, Ralph, let me put you on the spot and ask you, what do you think the key to being excited about that is?
I think there's a curiosity, a genuine curiosity, but I do think a humility. I think humility is important. It reminds me, there's an Eckhart Tolle quote. I think it's attributed to Eckhart. It's in not knowing that the knowing emerges. And so by not knowing, it kind of drives you to ask questions, to read, to research, to experiment. And I mean, what great fun. I had a guy recently say, he asked me how old I was. I said, you actually can't ask me that, but that's all right. He goes, you seem like you're still really excited about what you do. And I think he nicely said, you don't seem like you just started. I think that's right. And I said, well, because it's different today than it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 20 years ago. And so it's new. And to me, new is exciting.
I hear the humility in that there's a humility to not just accept, but embrace that change of things changing, of things growing, right? I was just sharing the story that I remember as a little kid. I was probably 4 or 5 years old, maybe a kindergartner or so. And my Aunt Mary at the time was the oldest person I knew. She was going to turn 100. She was 99 years old.
That's older than me.
I'll never forget, I was just a little guy, and my dad had bought a new family car. It wasn't brand new, but it was new to us. And it was the first automatic transmission vehicle we had. Up until that, Dad had stick shifts. And he went to go pick up Aunt Mary, and I was in the back seat, and she refused to get in the car. She said, I will never get in a car that's an automatic because I don't trust it to shift itself.
Wow.
Right. But I knew my Aunt Mary as someone who was, she was very devout in her faith. She was a wonderful person, but she was really closed to change like that. And I'll never forget that as a little guy thinking, oh my gosh, I hope I'm never that fearful or concerned about something like that I can always have the vulnerability to embrace those kinds of changes.
I love the story. And I think if I come back to the question you asked me and the answer, I also believe that everything is impermanent. And I think that belief is critical to leaders continuing on their learning journey. I also think the humility piece that you talked about, I was watching a show the other day, and it was a police show, right? And this very seasoned and successful inspector was mentoring this young woman who was really smart, brilliant, but she thought she knew everything. He was rarely apologetic. And he took her aside. He said, there's three things that will make you really good in this profession. Three statements. One, I don't know. Saying I don't know. Two, I was wrong. Three, I'm sorry. I think those are three things to keep in mind. I think there's a combination of humility with that, but also, how could we possibly know everything about anything? It's impossible. And so not knowing and admitting that you were wrong, I think, is one way to keep learning, actually.
I think all three of them do. The purest essence of a sincere apology, saying I'm sorry, is really deeply rooted in I'm willing to do this differently next time so I don't do it this way again. That's learning too. I love those three. I don't know, I was wrong, and I'm sorry is all openness to learning.
There's a vulnerability embedded in that. There's an admission of fallibility.
Yeah.
By admitting we don't know. And how ridiculous it is. I love to read, and I won't even read all the books in my house probably in my lifetime. And so, when my son will tell me, Dad, when you think you really know something, just go into a library.
There you go.
Look around.
There you go. Yeah.
That doesn't humble you in a hurry. Or go to the internet, right? I mean, you could go wherever you want to go. But
that's what I pictured, was reaching into my pocket for my phone, because so often when I'm up against something I don't know, you have the world's biggest encyclopedia in your pocket, in your phone. You can look something up. That's an admission that you don't know, right? That you're going to look something up. That's great. You get to learn about it. You get to go deeper. I enjoy reading as well, and I gravitate to very heavy theory when I read. I gravitate to theoretical physics, and I'm not bragging in this space, Ralph, because I probably understand maybe 40% of what I read, probably less, probably about 30% of what I'm actually reading, but it's pushing me to really learn and grow. I uncover more about what I don't know than what I learn in that reading. And I love being on that cusp of, oh my gosh, that's like 17 more things I don't know about. That's exciting to me.
That requires a level of curiosity and an openness to something that you may not be familiar with or confident in. It's interesting, and I may have shared this on a previous podcast. I have been rereading books.
Yeah.
That I've read before, but I'm reading them through new eyes. You never step into the same river twice.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm at a different age and stage.
Sure.
And so what's resonating with me is different. And I think that's the other part, when we can bring new eyes to an existing situation, we will learn more about what's really going on in that situation.
No, I love that. Love that idea. This isn't just limited to more knowledge, I think, right? It's not just about amassing more knowledge. It's not just about reading, but it's for application. We often say read for application. Don't read for completion. It's one thing to read cover to cover. It's another to put something we read about or learn about or know about into practice.
Learning is one of my top 7 or 8 values, but contribution is right up in the top 10. So I have a very pragmatic reason for reading. I want to be able to do something with it. I want to be able to move the needle. I want to be able to get an outcome with the application. I remember I was reading in the lobby of a book right before a coaching meeting, and I read something that was really neat. And it just happened in the coaching meeting. There was an opportunity to try it out.
Yes. I
tried it out on the client, and the guy goes, "Oh, I love it." He goes, "How long have you been doing this?" I said, "About 8 minutes."
Right.
Of course, I don't know if I should have said that, but the idea of just try it, right? That's learning, because learning is about growing. It's about failing, because you'll learn how not to do it. And you got to be okay with the learning process will have a lot of stump toes. You're not going to get it immediately.
So I love that potential tension of perhaps you shouldn't have said that you've only been practicing that for about 8 minutes, because it assumes that, well, how credible is this guy in front of me? But I'd argue quite the opposite. How open is this person to be willing to share something? I often say, and with humility, this is not bragging, I often say, I think all you have to do is show up. To many of my coaching clients, I think all you have to do is show up. And be your best in that moment. It's not about being overconfident or cocky. It's about being humble enough to know that you can flex and be in that space and be at your best. I think sometimes all you have to do is show up.
I would add, though, because I think you did add, show up and be open.
Yeah.
Be open to be shaped, be open to let go of something that it might be getting in the way of learning. When my kids were both much younger, I remember someone observed a conversation where they were clearly teaching me, and this friend of mine said, well, who's in charge there? I said, well, it depends on what the subject is.
There you go.
I mean, there are areas my kids know a heck of a lot more than me, so they're in charge. I don't think he thought much of that answer. But, for me, that's the learning process. You can, everybody's both your teacher and your student. And you have to show up and I think be open for that.
I love it. I'm just entered a coaching engagement with this guy who is getting an amazing promotion, and he deserves it. He's going to be the future plant manager in a pretty big organization. How he shares how he's gotten his knowledge, he calls it the street smart leader. He's, kind of school of hard knocks. Compared to others, he might not have the pedigree, he doesn't have the formal education, but he's had this willingness to be vulnerable and humble, be incredibly curious and creative, and to keep practicing. And he shares his practices with others. And this is this guy's formula for success to a significant promotion in his career.
Which I think has got to be a place that we would suggest where people start. I think if you really want to demonstrate this, start learning something brand new.
Love it.
I'll never forget when I started the martial arts at age 32. That was putting me way outside my comfort zone, white gi, not very flexible. But yet, if I'm going to be asking people that work with me, that I coach, to learn new things, how often are we putting ourselves in new situations where we may not have a lot of confidence in learning and perhaps failing, right? Having a fair amount of vulnerability. I think it allows you to have empathy for the challenges people experience when they do encounter something new.
Yeah, I love that. So start with learning something truly new. Pick a new topic, a new genre of something you, I think, have an interest in, but you haven't done yet. Something new. Another, I think, simple practice of those 3 statements you shared earlier. Start looking for those authentic opportunities to say, I don't know when I don't know, to be able to share that kind of fallibility, to be able to say, I'm sorry when it's called for, right? To sincerely apologize, or if there was a wrongdoing, just to be able to say, oh, I was wrong about that. If I made an error, I was wrong about that.
There's a famous Mark Twain quote. It ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. And I think part of this lesson for leaders is, what is it that you think you know for sure that just ain't so?
Ralph, I love it. Let's leave it with Mark Twain.
Okay.
Thanks, Ralph. And folks, thanks for listening. You can listen to a new podcast 2 times every month here at Get Emergent, or wherever you listen to podcasts. This is where we bring you contemporary leadership topics and ideas balanced with what we hope you find are better practices that you can apply to your work and your leadership. Thank you.